Good morning. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with those who take counsel in the annual meeting of St. Alban's Church for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. So I officially call to order our annual meeting, our 2026 annual meeting. We need confirmation of vestry approval of the 2025 annual meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Second? Second. Very good. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Excellent. I call upon our secretary. Do we have enough folks? Do we have a quorum? We have a quorum. Fantastic. Shall we have a reading of the minutes from the last meeting? Does everybody have about 45 minutes to go slowly through page after page, or should we dispense with that? Amanda, do you want to come forward and tell us about online voting and so forth?
Yes, is that online?
I think so.
Okay. I think this overnight you should have received a online voting email. I voted this morning myself. If you did not receive it, Lisa, do we have a remedial action at this point? Probably not, since we had there were several earlier emails. But just sort of in future, if you didn't get an email and you are a parishioner, please reach out to us and we'll make sure that this is rectified for next year. Is there anything else I need to say, Lisa, about the online voting? It's pretty easy, actually. It's just like you open it up, you click, and you save it, and that's it. Okay?
Thanks very much. We had a wonderful slate of candidates from our nominations committee. We didn't have anyone request to run. There were no write-in candidates, so it is an uncontested election. But I think it's important that we all participate, so I hope you'll exercise your agency in voting for this fantastic slate of folks. So, the state of the parish, I think, is pretty darn fantastic. We have gone through a pretty contentious and challenging year in the United States, in the city of Washington, and I think that in many ways the challenges we faced have really drawn our community closer together. We put out an appeal just after the budget cuts and the ramping up of deportations. We put out an appeal for folks that if you had some extra cash lying around, you could give it to the discretionary fund, and we would try and supplement people who were facing not being able to pay their rent and their bills, people who were seeking immigration attorneys. And we actually received tens of thousands of dollars and gave all that money away. And so we were able to keep people in their homes, we were able to give people adequate legal representation, and it was just such a blessing to get to be a part of that process. So I just want to thank you all for that. I think it's really deserves a round of applause. Despite the challenges that the world faced this year, this was also a really exciting year at St. Alban's. So as I mentioned in my report, this was the year, it's easy to forget all the stuff that happened, but this is the year that we had this incredible, amazing lecture from Dr. Francis Collins, former director of the NIH, phenomenal author on faith and science. This is the year that we had our second incredible party at the Australian ambassador's residence, thanks to Ambassador Rudd and Ms. Rain. This was the year that we had a really moving sermon from outgoing Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, and that was all just the first week of November. There's a lot that happened this year at St. Albans. So I'm going to talk a tiny bit about the goals that we stated, or that I stated from last year. A few of them, we talked about maybe the possibility of hiring a full-time priest for children, youth, and families. Mark Randall James came on board at the beginning of summer, came on board full-time, I know, another round of applause. Came on board as our full-time assistant rector at the end of August, and he's just been doing a phenomenal job. Our children's ministries continue to flourish. they would not have continued to flourish if it weren't for a couple of people. So is Candace Brown here? Yes. Candace, could you stand up for a sec? Candace Brown and Françoise Legal just grabbed the godly play bull by the horns after the departure of our former children's minister and before Mark came and ran this operation with this incredible level of excellence. It was not easy. It was a tremendous amount of work. There are all these binders full of loose leaf pages that have to be consistently rearranged and instructions given to all the teachers. It was so much, and I'm so grateful to you all for maintaining that. And then is our Kiki and Rachel here? Somewhere, Kiki McLean and Rachel Freitag continued our spectacular children's chapel programming in this interim period. They took all of this upon themselves, and both of these menus just continue to flourish in the interim and have gotten even stronger with Mark's arrival. So I'm really happy about that. It has to be said, he had some stiff competition for the greatest priest at St. Alban's because Sarah is so spectacular. So I feel like I get to serve with like the best clergy team on planet Earth. We also talked about the possibility of hiring an assistant or an office administrator. And so we wanted to find someone for 2 days a week. We had this wonderful person who kind of came out of the woodwork of the diocese, Leslie Crowland, who she's a deacon in the Episcopal Church. She came to us and said, look, my diaconal ministry is what I do. I'm not in it for the money. Like, I think this would be a fun thing to help out for a season and help you get a sense of whether or not you need a parish administrator. So she's been with us since April. Her diaconal ministry is revving up. She's got really involved with the migration ministries of the diocese. She's the deacon at St. Andrew's College Park. And eventually she's going to move back to being a full-time deacon, but her time here with us has been really transformative, and it's helped us to realize that we need not a 2-day-a-week, but a full-time parish administrator. So we're beginning that search. She's very flexible. She said, I'll stay with you until you find the right person, but when that right person comes, I'm ready to go back to doing full-time deacon stuff. So that's also been a wonderful exploration. A couple of other things. We talked about these Diana Smith funds that we've had for a very long time that have not been used systematically. And this year we put together a committee to honor the legacy of a former parishioner, Diana Smith, who left a fund to be used for the spiritual good of the parish. And we put on a wonderful retreat day in Lent last year. And we're going to have the same speaker, the Reverend Justin Lanier, come back to join us on March 21st. We're looking at some other possibilities for Diana Smith spirituality events, and that committee has been incredibly helpful. Looking towards 2026, I've mentioned this before, but I'm really excited about the possibility of filling this place with groceries. I think it would be really great if we set up all of our folding tables, covered the whole thing in produce and staples one night a week, and gave it all away, such that people could come in who needed assistance in getting food and just walk away with a bag or two of groceries. We're in the 3rd out of 4 stages of approval from the Capital Area Food Bank, and if we get approved, then we just become online shoppers, and we'll be able to go on their website and say, we would like 1,000 pounds of potatoes, 2,000 pounds of carrots, and some lettuce for this Thursday. They'll drop it off, we'll set it up, we'll give it away, we'll sweep the floor, done deal. So I think that's going to be a really exciting thing once we get to that stage with the food bank. We are in the middle of a process working with the foundation that controls basically all the property on the Cathedral Close except for St. Alban's. So this is kind of a complex situation, which I won't take the time to explain, but the Protestant Episcopal Cathedral Foundation basically owns and operates everything but the St. Alban's property on the Cathedral Close. And we have had a handshake agreement with them for about 126 years that we can use the playground area, the parking lot behind the rectory, 1/8 of my porch, some various things that are technically cathedral property, but we've been using as though we owned it for over a century. And we're in the final stages of putting together an official easement agreement with them. We're involving surveyors and so forth. Once that easement agreement is done, and once both parties are sure what the appropriate boundaries are, we're going to start thinking about rebuilding our playground, which is very exciting. So we had to, I know, it's thrilling. We had to demolish our playground because of a thing called tetanus, apparently. And there were a lot of loose nails, a lot of rat's nests, etc. So we really want to put together a really beautiful, really exciting playground that'll be an attractive thing to maybe new members, current members, and also just a gift to the community around us. And at the same time, work on expanding our columbarium. So I think that's going to be a really exciting project we're going to lay the groundwork for in 2026. One other thing that came up after the first time I talked about the St. Alban's Food Pantry, 4 different people came up to me and said, you know, we used to have this really fun thing that was associated with outreach called the St. Alban's Gala. And there's a big point of contention about the gala. And I don't know if you all are aware of this, but there's controversy because some people say gala, and some people say gala, and it's really confusing. So the first item of business of 2026 is to get our story straight and stay either potato or potato, it doesn't matter which, we've got to settle that. And then we want to put together a kind of re-emergence of the gala or gala that is not super labor intensive. So we're going to kind of de-emphasize the things that created volunteer burnout and emphasize the fun parts of that. I think that's going to be a really exciting thing that we're going to work on. So lots more to come, a potential pilgrimage to St. Albans in England, another parish weekend, lots of other things on the horizon. But I think 2026 is going to be a very fun year at St. Albans. Questions, thoughts? Any offers of like $500,000 to build a playground? You know, it's like an open thing. Just let me know. If not, shall I pass the microphone off to our senior warden? Is that our next step? If you'd like to give your report, please.
Do you want to? I'll take it. Sorry, I did look at the agenda closely enough, obviously. Good morning, everybody. I'm Amanda Gilman. I'm the senior warden. It's been my first year of fun, getting to know the church, getting to know all the different types of mistakes that I can make, and I've been just overwhelmed. And I don't know if I can put into words how much you all have meant to me this year. As Bertie said, it has been so challenging for so many of us, and I have seen nothing but compassion, rejection of divisiveness, and absolute wonderful support for our neighbors here and far. I have to thank you. Thank you so much for being St. Albanites. You have been wonderful and an absolute gift to me. But I also want to thank you. And as a result, if you'll see in my report, most of this is just thanking folks for doing all the wonderful work they're doing at St. Albans. I would be remiss if I didn't say at the very outset, I thank God every day for our clergy. Bertie, Sarah, Mark. We are absolutely blessed to have you spiritual leaders in our lives. I also want to thank our wonderful parish administrators. Mary's right here. Roland Mansfield, are you there? Oh, please. Raise your hand. Amazing. Very confident in what they do. They have such good humor and when they do it, even when the air conditioning breaks, the boiler breaks, whatever it is, they are marvelous and we need to support them in everything they do. A couple of quick shout outs to some of the folks who've been just very instrumental in making St. Albans its wonderful self. The hospitality committee, which has been led by Sarah and Eve, I see you right there, who have done incredible work this year, whether it was the annual picnic, Strawberry Sunday, Thanksgiving dinner, which we hosted with 2 other congregations, Christmas dinner, and we had our very first partnership with the Basilica, where they prepared the food and we served it. And I think this is going to be a wonderful model for future endeavors, in years to come. I also wanted to do a very special thank you to Fred Squass and Katie Wilson, who I know is here somewhere. I saw her. They did a remarkable job at, and you'll hear more about it, at doing a deep dive study on our outreach programs and kind of crafting a way forward in the future. And then finally, but not really finally, so can you just stand up for a second, please? This is Ted. Yes, Ted. Yes. Ted has been the most amazing junior warden I think we probably have ever seen. And I am not at all exaggerating when I say he has been at this church in sleet and snow and thunderstorms and every heat, awful heat, and he has
cold
and ice and all of it, and he has absolutely put in blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that these buildings and grounds will be a spiritual home for us and for our future generations. And I will miss you so much working with you so closely, although I can assure all of you, he's not really going very far. He's doing a lot of work, especially on the playgrounds. Just to sum up, you have been just the most extraordinary folks to work with. I am so looking forward to 2026. I think we have got so many things to look forward to as a parish, more in-reach, more outreach, and more spiritual formation. Oh, and one last thing actually, and Mark's not here, but I do want to just sort of do a shout out to the youth and the youth formation and godly play. We sometimes sort of forget, I think sometimes, especially sort of live in an adult world, how important it is to prepare children for the next, to be the parishioners that we are now. And our godly play is one of the most sophisticated programs, I think, in the city when it comes to sort of spiritual formation. And goodness gracious, is this not the time where we need to start focusing on our children's character development, integrity, principle, being able to act in a principled manner? I mean, I thank God every day for all of the godly play leaders and the youth group leaders. And they're going to Italy this year, which will be really exciting if there's ever a model to follow at St. Francis of Assisi. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, and because I took the agenda completely out of order, for which I apologize, I'd like to invite forward the Reverend Sarah Taylor Mellon.
Ditto to what has already been said already. I just want to highlight a few things, especially I think our Spanish-speaking community, who I work with pretty regularly. And if we're talking about the past year and what it's been like, they have been some of the people, especially many of them are immigrants and refugees, who have been quite impacted over the past year by all of the events in the world. So, ¿está aquí alguien que habla español? Que viene regularmente a la misa en español. We don't have anyone here today in the room that speaks Spanish that comes to 11:15 service, but I just do want to take a moment to honor them. Their faith, it's amazing. Their faith inspires me. And that's just really the pure gift and miracle of God's grace. And it's an honor to work with them and to be inspired by them. The next thing I want to highlight is, again, our hospitality committee, and to make think about the future, looking forward to 2026. The committee will be continuing to work on all of the annual parish events that we have, and they are a great organized group. And the next step that they have is to find point people for each of the events that we offer here at St. Alban, so Strawberry Sunday or our picnic. And so if you are considering what your next step is, how you're going to get involved, please consider taking on one of these events. You will be joining a fantastic team. You will have tons of support. If you have questions, there are people that can answer them. They've been taking detailed notes about all of our events over the past year. So you won't be, thrown to the wolves. You'll really be joining a wonderful community. So please consider that. And finally, not included in my report, but I kind of serve as point person for the workers of St. Alban, which of course is our board for the op shop, the opportunity shop. And this year, Robin Rudd retired from her many years of service as the chair of the board. Thank you so much, Robin, for your tireless, amazing organizational and just leadership overall of the board. And Mary Beth Albright has taken up the charge of the chair of the WSA. So thank you for the privilege of serving us in St. Albans. It's a joy. Thank you.
So Amanda alluded to this, but I also want to say that basically there's a fact that's known in just Christianity as a whole, that every 170 years the Lord sends a Ted cage to every physical plant. Because, you know, if you've been to the Hagia Sophia, if you've been to those 4th century churches in Ravenna, without those Ted cages, those would not exist. And there is probably no way we would be safely sitting in this room today without Ted. A normal junior warden is responsible for kind of thinking about the finances of the buildings, checking in every few months to make sure like the people on the staff are actually like, you know, keeping the lights on and so forth. Ted has been in every crawl space. He's examined every physical system. He's, I'm sure, been tapping on the hammer within every stone. Like, he knows this place like the back of his hand and is fixing it all. It is astonishing. And so, because of you, Ted, like, we will actually be here in another 100 years, and we would not be without you. Thank you so much for everything. Without further ado, the final junior warden's report from Ted Cage.
All right. Thanks. So, I wasn't planning to wear this jacket for today, but if you hadn't noticed, it's really cold in here. And this gets to a point that I want to make, which is that I have very frequently asked you all for patience and understanding as we maintain a 170-plus-year-old campus. And today, we're witnessing live an example where the mechanical system that heats this room broke about a week and a half ago. Roland has diligently been trying to get it repaired. The mechanical contractor called the factory that makes the part that broke. The factory is closed for a whole week because we don't know why, but they're just closed. So the part's on order, but this room doesn't get heat until that part is installed. So once again, thank you for your patience and understanding. I'm just very grateful to have been afforded the opportunity to put some love and care into keeping this place up. And keep trying to keep everybody safe from falling trees, falling limbs, and there is a little bit of ice out there, so watch your step. So I'll spare you the details, but just looking back over 3 years, yes, we got the rectory renovated and inhabited. Yes, we got a new air conditioning system for the church, although as Bertie mentioned, the easement, we can't put that equipment where it belongs behind Nurse until the easement agreement is in place, because the space behind Nurse actually belongs to the Cathedral Foundation. And the city looked at the drawings we gave them to get a permit for the work, and the city said, you can't put something on somebody else's property where you don't own the property. So we're working on getting that ironed out. So again, please, your patience and understanding are appreciated as we abide that big piece of equipment that's on the terrace by the columbarium. There are so many things that I hope I can continue to help get addressed in coming years as a member of the Building and Grounds Committee. You all are going to be in very good hands with the next junior warden.
Not biased at all.
Yeah, no, I have no bias whatsoever. No, but I am grateful that she was willing to serve. It took a year of persuasion. I'm not kidding, about a year. So you're going to be in, I think, very good hands, and I will do everything I can to support the new junior warden. And who's, in my opinions, may not be welcome, but I won't withhold them. So anyway, but one of the biggest things, I'll be quick. The one thing I'm very proud of and very glad to have been able to participate in was the recruiting and hiring of Roland. Roland has been fantastic. And it's been a pleasure working with Roland, and I look forward to continuing to work with him. And you all are in very good hands, and onwards and upwards.
Speaking of long-suffering, incredible servants of the church, Hollis McLaughlin and Dudley Winthrop have been on the database side what Ted Cage has been on the physical plant side. They have had two amazing, grueling full-time jobs at this church for a while until we finally were able to hire our finance manager, Dana. And she has really, I hope, taken a great amount of weight off of their shoulders. But we are so grateful to their labors during those hard years and their continued labors during these somewhat less hard years. You all are part of the bedrock of this place, and we're so grateful. So thank you. With that intro, I would like to present our Treasurer's Report.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Good. As the rector just said, as I'm standing here, but I couldn't do this job without Dudley Winthrop. We're a team and really sort of co-treasurers. I mean, he's been fantastic help to me and therefore to the parish. Just very quickly, you have my report in front of you. I think that we're in a very strong financial position. We're about a $2.2 million operation on an operating basis. Once again, we came in with a surplus. One of the things that I've observed firsthand over the last decade is every November, December, we sort of start biting our fingernails. Are we going to make it? And every year, the generosity of the parish comes through. And in the last few years, we've actually come in with a pledged income over what was actually pledged. There's very good news to that, but as most of you can appreciate, it shows you how dependent we are on annual fundraising. So while we're in a very strong position, we can't take our eye off the ball because it really is a year-to-year process. But bottom line is we came in with a very strong surplus in 2025, and we had an extraordinarily strong pledge campaign for 2026 of $1.46 million, which is actually $90,000 above the pledge campaign of 2025. So that puts us in very good shape. I would point out that I think it is very important that we continue to grow our younger members and encourage them to be pledgers, because most of our higher pledgers are in my category, meaning senior citizen. And they have been very generous over the years, but I think it's very important that we work on nurturing the next generation of pledgers. Moving from the operating budget to our endowment. Our endowment is about $5.3 million. We had a very good return this year of about 16%. We have 65% in equities, 35% in bonds. The funds are managed by Vanguard, so the Finance Committee is not making individual decisions about the funds, but it is being managed by a third-party professional manager. We take a 5% 3-year rolling average out of that endowment. The Finance Committee is recommending for 2026 that we reduce that to 4.5%, because over the longer term, it's important to try to get that rolling average down in the range of 4%. The next fund is the reserve fund. The reserve fund has about $500,000 in it. It is the fund that we use for capital maintenance, what has funded the HVAC projects, etc. So we want to try to maintain that at $500,000 to $600,000 over the long term. So those are the three funds, the three categories: the operating budget, the endowment fund, and the reserve fund. In conclusion, I would say that we're in a very strong financial position, and we need to keep up that momentum. So thank you.
I just wanted to say on behalf of myself and on behalf of Elizabeth, just the immense gratitude that we feel having led the stewardship campaign and seeing every week the generosity of everybody in the congregation. I was not farsighted enough to realize that I would be leading a stewardship campaign in the midst of a government shutdown. And we certainly were prepared for a stewardship campaign that ended rather differently. That was, in fact, our expectation. But to see every week, to see the pledges come in from people who were new, who were pledging for the first time, to see pledges coming in from people who, like our family, had not been paid and did not know when they would be paid, is an extraordinary expression of faith. And just a really incredible commitment to St. Albans. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all of those who contributed to make it into the logistics of the campaign. Thank you to our incredible vestry, to Amanda, to all the clergy, to Roland and Mary, and most of all to all of you for really investing in our congregation. It means so much to us. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Would any outgoing vestry members stand? There's Melanie, I don't know who else. Katie, there's Katie is here. Would the two of you come forward, please? Oh, Anton, thank you, Anton's here too. Come forward, please. Just a tiny parting gift from St. Albans. Not partying, because you're not going anywhere. It's like the mafia, you can't leave. You just go to a different volunteer capacity. But these are icons made on Chios in Greece. And they're
non-breakable.
And they're non-breakable. And Ted, would you please come forward? This is Christ, the true vine. So you see all the apostles, all the ministries of the church growing out of Christ himself. And I think this is what we're called to in all of our ministries, be they brutal, back-breaking, snow-clearing ministries like yourself, or normal ministries like the rest of us. But thank you all so much for serving. So I think this is the section entitled Questions and Comments. Please.
Is the fund for supporting parishioners during turbulent times, are you looking for additional donations? Is there still need?
I swear she's not a shill. The question was, is there still additional need for more donations to the fund supporting parishioners during difficult times? This is just the rector's or just the general, just discretionary fund, and we have given away all the funds that did come in. So if you still have more cash lying around and you want to redistribute that to folks in need, you can write a check to St. Albans and just put discretionary fund in the memo line, and that's what we'll spend it on. Thank you. Great question.
Speakers for the coming year?
Speakers for the coming year. I mean, I think these are fairly loud, but just kidding. So, I kid. So the memorial lecture is a black box of serious hard work, of research, and I don't even find out who they're considering until fairly far into their process. We will have Justin Lanier, who's a priest. He's a former Roman Catholic Trappist monk, became an Episcopal priest, serves a church in Philadelphia. He'll be back on March 21st to lead a retreat day. We will have the Evelyn Underhill retreat day, as we always do this summer. There is a spirituality speaker called Martin Laird, who we've invited. He hasn't confirmed a date yet. He is spectacular. We're hoping to have Sarah Coakley return to us again at some point. So there are a number of folks. This coming Lent, we will be looking at, as I mentioned in church, we'll be looking at the idea of death. not as a gloomy thing, but as an actual kind of facing the reality that this life is given to us for a time of growth in goodness, and that eventually we will actually be received into the arms of goodness himself. So we'll be looking at what it means to die, what the process of your death is actually going to look like, not in a creepy way, but in a theological way. And we'll be doing this through the lens of C.S. Lewis's The Great Divorce. So you can read more about this in the weekly newsletter that will be coming out this Friday. The Great Divorce it's a very slim book, and it's kind of Lewis's imaginary exploration of what it's like to die. Again, this is not gloomy, morbid stuff. This is mostly about heaven. So I hope that you'll kind of explore this with me. During this time, we'll also be looking at what it looks like to plan your own funeral. This is kind of an exercise of thinking about your mortality, but also a gift to your spouse and kids. Thinking about, just various aspects of what it is to be a mortal person who is called to immortal life. So I think that's going to be super interesting and a lot of fun and a great Lent. We'll be talking about those in the Rector's Forums on Sunday. And then on Wednesdays, we'll be continuing on with our ACTS program that Sarah and I have been working on. Other questions, comments? I am going to a meeting in October with the new Archbishop of Canterbury, so, I'll bug her about coming here. That's my goal. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's my goal. Please, Anton.
Any ideas on a parish weekend event? Projected dates?
Such a great question. So we had a wonderful parish weekend October before last. This year they said, we have one date for you, and it is Halloween weekend. And as a parent of small children, I don't want to be murdered in my sleep by my children. That's a goal in life. And when we did some straw polling, other families felt exactly the same. So we just thought we could do an event that's going to have 0 families, or we could try and have a more inclusive event this coming October. So they're giving us an October date. I think, do you know, Sam?
It doesn't fall on Halloween this year. We still have the Tri-Month Day.
That's great.
Next few years.
Yeah. Okay. So it is the last weekend in October, but Halloween is not on that weekend. So we will have a parish retreat weekend. Thank you, Anton. That's such a great question. Other questions, thoughts? Please.
I just want to give a shout out to Matthew and the choir.
Spectacular. Spectacular. Our musical director, Matthew Stainer, is a phenomenally accomplished musician, organist, but he's also this really pastoral, kind, thoughtful choir director that just brings so much out of a mix of professional and amateur musicians. And his ministry is such a gift to our parish. Thank you, David, for lifting that up. Our choir is also utterly spectacular. I mean, I don't know if you all remember this, but when the Archbishop of Canterbury came, they sang the psalm and he said, "Did you hear that psalm? I've never heard a psalm sung so beautifully." And he's heard a lot of psalms sung by a lot of choirs. So that's a pretty good litmus test. Thank you, David. Other questions, please?
Since we're doing shout-outs, Courtney Cunningham, who I'm getting to know better, is amazing. She manages the op shop. And she is phenomenal,
Yeah.
and she's lifted it. So.
If you couldn't hear Lucy, Courtney Cunningham, who is the one member of staff you will never encounter on a Sunday, Courtney is the manager of our op shop, and she is spectacular. Not only is she making the op shop a much more professional organization that's grossing $400,000 a year or something insane like that, all of which gets $600,000 from your old t-shirts, that is wild. Courtney went to a meeting with another op shop, the name of which will remain in confidence. And she said, "How are your revenues?" And the woman said, "Oh, they're spectacular. We're doing we're averaging 10,000." And Courtney was like, "Oh my gosh, $10,000 a week?" And she said, No, a year." Anyway, the op shop is going great guns, and not only is she doing all this, she's also managing a team of about 70 volunteers. who have complex schedules, complex things going on in their lives from all walks of life, Episcopalians, non-Episcopalians. She's so pastoral, so kind, so thoughtful. She's like amazing. So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. Shout out to Courtney. If you ever go in the op shop, say hello to Courtney for all of us. She's great. Other questions, thoughts? Please.
I know there's lots of things beyond your control, but do you have a projected date when the food pantry might actually start operating?
Meredith's question is, do we have a projected date when the food pantry might start operating? I have a projected day of the week, but not actually a date. So it's going to be a weeknight, either Tuesdays or Thursdays, where Thursday is kind of the request, and that seems to be what works best for the food pantry. That is tricky for our choir, because our choir practices on Thursday nights. We've got to kind of iron that out. Basically, we're waiting on the Capital Area Food Bank to approve our application. So if you know anybody in the Capital Area Food Bank, give them a nudge for us. But like, if we were to start before we get approval, which is totally feasible, it really means all of us kind of volunteering to buy groceries, bring groceries to church, and distribute those groceries, which is a wonderful thing to do and a great model, but it's just, there's a lot more friction in that model. Because I have to say this week, we need 1,000 pounds of lettuce, so please everybody be responsible for buying 26 pounds of lettuce. It's just like, it gets really complicated. Whereas if you go on the food bank website, you can order produce for free, and you can order staples at a severely discounted rate. And so you can literally say, we want 1,000 pounds of lettuce this week, and they bring it for a $75 delivery fee. And that's it. You're paying $75 for 1,000 pounds of lettuce, and then you give it all away that day. So I think in terms of just volunteer efficiency, not wearing people out, and having a kind of tightly organized operation from the outset, it is really beneficial to begin working with them rather than starting in a kind of startup, scrappy way. But if we don't get approved, we're going to start up in a startup, scrappy way. Thanks for that question. Please.
Do we need volunteers?
Will we need volunteers? You'll get $5 later, sir. Yes, we will need volunteers. About 1,000. So, yeah, I really want to challenge everybody to volunteer at the food pantry at least once a quarter. At least once a year. Maybe once a week if you're into it. It's going to be a really spectacular, low-intensity, high-joy ministry. It doesn't take a lot of life skills to stand at a table and say, please take 2 bags of pasta. Please take 2 bags of pasta. But, you're giving someone who has no food 2 bags of pasta. It's, the best thing you can do with a Thursday night, except for choir practice. So, yeah, it's going to be fantastic. And I will be back to you with lots of volunteer opportunities shortly. Questions, please?
The diocesan annual convention.
Yes.
Could you tell us something about it?
Yes, so 2 big things happened. One really big thing happened in the diocesan convention. So the Diocese of Washington was created as an intentionally weak diocese with a weak bishop. It was created late, and there was this sense that if the Episcopal Church wants a national cathedral, it should probably go in Washington, and they should probably have a bishop to put in the national cathedral. But it was a little bit of a cart before the horse process, and there were these 4 controlling, ruthless, domineering parishes in the diocese at that point, one of which was called St. Albans. And they decided to create this kind of weak power structure for the bishop. One of the results of that kind of history is that there was no set amount that parishes had to pay the diocese per year. So in most dioceses, you're basically paying, your parish tithe is like the tax that you pay. And if you don't get in taxes, you get in big trouble. You don't get seat or voice at the convention. There are other sort of penalizing things. This diocese had nothing like that. They just had a sort of, well, if you're asking, you could pay this much per year. Here's our suggested amount. No pressure. So the diocese went through a very intentional process the past couple of years to think about actually instituting a tithing system in which parishes had an ask and committed to that ask, and then thinking about whether or not there would be penalties if you didn't make your ask. I went to I'm dean of this deanery, and I held a presentation with the bishop and the candidate ordinary and the treasurer of the diocese for our deanery, and we actually looked at what all the churches are paying now and what they would be paying if this new system came into place. And it was a lot of jaw-dropping, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to really increase our giving by so much, except for one church. You know what that was? That was St. Alban's, because we're absurdly generous, you know? We're like giving away $400,000 to these charities from the op shop. We pay our full diocesan ask every year. And so they instituted the system. It does not affect us at all, because we were already giving as much as they thought it was reasonable for us to give, which, I don't know, makes me feel really good about our parish. Another interesting thing that happened at this convention, there was a move from the, two really important things. One, I had the honor of nominating probably one of the most impacting, best General Convention delegates in the history of the church, Anton Vanderpool, to General Convention. He's going to be one of our alternate delegates this year. Fantastic. And two, we had a motion from the floor, which was, it was kind of like there were parts of it that were a bit vague, but they were sort of like a general statement of solidarity with people who were suffering human rights abuses in deportation processes. One of the interesting concrete things from that was a request that the diocese put together an educational program for those who want to support people in the immigration process. And so I think that'll be really interesting to see what that program looks like and how that plays out. So thank you, Candace. Really great question. Anything else? Questions, comments? Dudley is not only is he our co-treasurer, he is our head verger, and he just gave me the verger's ultimate symbol, which is, you're late for church, buddy. Any other burning questions or comments? If not, I have a big favor. Would everybody stand? And let us pray together in the words our Lord hath taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom,